Cue the music.
Welcome to the Upper Deck for Pinstripe Chronicles. I'm Chris. I'm here with Lynn, and today we have a special guest, Spencer. I'm sure Twitter fans will recognize him and be happy that he's joined us today. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love the show.
We are ready to get going today. There's so much to talk about. I thought we could start off with something that we could call the blame game. It seems like since the season ended, that's been the name of the game. So maybe that'll lead us into every other topic, I'm sure. How are you guys feeling about this? Who's to blame?
Well, I think with the after season press conference, the state of the after season, as I sort of like to think of it, I think a lot of fans are going to say that the Yankees are just throwing out the same old song and dance. They're not really giving any hard answers to the questions that they have. And I think a lot of Yankee fans are losing confidence. You know, of course, there's a lot of consternation about Boone. There's a lot of dissatisfaction with Brian Cashman. We see all over Twitter how people want him fired. They want him gone. They want Boone fired. They want him gone. They want Hicks gone. They want Isaiah kind of Falefa. My take from the postseason press conference, specifically about where Aaron Boone says that the Yankees, he feels, are still have the potential to win a world championship. It isn't that he says it. It's that I don't think he understands that fans are not feeling that. They feel that they're being not told the truth. They feel that there is more to the story than is being told to them. And I think that the impression I get is the Yankees aren't getting that. They're really not hearing their fans. And I think that is creating the gap between the fans and the franchise.
I would agree with that, Spencer. And what we're never hearing and will never hear is any accountability from the front office.
No.
And so I think we have to really manage our expectations as a fan base about that.
Yeah.
It's good for you to get it off your chest, but don't expect it not to come back on your chest. And it was interesting. The first hour of the Michael K. Show podcast, after the press conference, Kay had a really good point. Rosenberg had a really good point. And Rosenberg always has a really good point. In regard to why they're so mealy-mouthed in this press conference and saying all the things you just mentioned. And so what Rosenberg said is they're not going to step on their product. This is their product. These players are their product. They paid money from the coffers essentially of the fans for this product. Do you think that they're going to say Donaldson sucked?
Yeah.
We really got ripped off with that contract. And that's what the fan base wants to hear, but they're never going to hear it. Like I was saying to Chris before we started, it's like, would you see a Pepsi commercial with the guy drinking a can of Pepsi and spitting it out and running to the bathroom? You wouldn't.
Good point. Good illustration.
Yeah. And so it's the same exact thing. You want to build the stadiums, you want to get all the advertising from Pepsi, etc. You're not going to, mess with your own product publicly.
Well, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
I like that.
Yeah, and one of the takeaways, or a couple takeaways that I had from the presser, one thing is that they're going to stay the course. The Yankee front office, Cashman, Boone, they don't see anything wrong with what happened this season. There's nothing to be blamed for. For Cashman, he said it's the process, not the results that matter. And as long as the process is good, then you're going in the right direction. And I think these are the kind of comments that I don't want to hear that. I just don't want to hear that kind of that results don't matter. This is not the Yankee organization that believes that winning is everything. That believes that winning is everything.
That's right.
Yeah, and
And
I think to echo that sentiment, I think the problem is that they're speaking in euphemisms, and the remarks are very vague. You know,
Yes.
I would be okay if the Yankees were on a press conference, and I can understand it's a delicate balance between what you can say and not saying something where it could really hurt your team. Like, you don't want to get a reputation of talking bad publicly about players, because then free agents are going to say, I don't want to go to the Yankees. They talk bad about us in public. Let me go somewhere else. So I understand that balance, but they're also it would be easier if the Yankees said, look, we can't go into detail about that because it would hurt our interests. But in trying to yanksplain it to us with these euphemisms,
right.
that is really just creating a gap, and it really doesn't help when it's in the wake of our sixth appearance in the postseason and not only not being able to advance to the World Series, but to be humiliated by the Houston Astros getting swept in the American League Championship Series. So that is really just it's exploding, it's mushrooming, and that is contributing to all of this strife that you hear between the Yankees and the fans. So it's the fan reaction is definitely understandable. And one thing about me, I know you guys know this because you see my comments on Twitter. I do try to like step back and give a benefit of the doubt, see things from the other position and the other view. But I totally understand Yankee fans' point of view, and in some cases I lean more towards with the views of the Yankee fans on these personnel matters.
Yep. And Spencer, you know, what you just said about we've made the postseason 9 times reminds me of a post that a tweet that I saw from Sean Marash from CBS. And he says 14 franchises have made the World Series since the Yankees last did. Just about half of baseball has seen at least 1 year greater than the Yankees have experienced, despite their payroll and resources since 2009, all under Brian Cashman's watch. And I think savvy fans, and just like what you said, Spencer, we know the deal. We know the drill. We are a very educated, knowledgeable, and involved fan base. And so I think what would have also been helpful during the presser that we'll probably never get is to acknowledge we understand where the fans are coming from. We see them, we hear, we read their tweets. We 100% understand where they're coming from. They're knowledgeable about the game and about this organization. Something like that, you know, and you know, and something else to also back up why they're staying the course, why it's been a drought to get to 28.
Yeah.
We're likely not to get that either, because I think in their makeup, they're thinking that that's conceding.
Yeah.
And a veiled way of saying that they're screwing up.
Well, I you know, again, trying to step into the shoes of the Yankees, you know, I understand in 2022, baseball is a lot more complicated. Okay. You now have 12 teams going into the playoffs, so you're competing with 12 teams, so getting to the World Series is a lot more challenging. Okay. I understand that. But you can still be a little bit more upfront with your fans about the state of your team, about the rhyme and the reason for decisions as to what is done and what is not done. You know, Sweeney Murdy tried to get some answers about the analytics and how analytics are integrated into the Yankees' decision on how to play the game, what players to get. And we all heard the answer that he gave. You know, he talked about it being, you know, Cashman said it's about the process. If the process is good, you know, then we're okay with the process. I think what fans want to know, just clearly and distinctly, is how much influence is the front office having in the dugout? You know, are they in fact making up the lineup? That's what we want to know. And you can't just say, well, we're not. I mean, what can you do to convince us that Aaron Boone is making up the lineup? What can you do to convince us that when the game is being played on the field, the front office is shut off and the team is playing the game that it has to play? That's what we want to know. And we really don't know that. It's such a mystery.
Bravo. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Not only that, but you begin to wonder if Aaron Boone is in fact the one making these decisions. What are the criteria that he has for his personnel decisions? I mean, IKF, he continues to pump up as an excellent shortstop. He said this in the presser. I mean, does he have to continue to say these things that are patently false? Or at least to Yankee fans' ears are patently false. We watched the games. The man was benched in the ALDS, if I'm not mistaken. It just seems to me, Donaldson, the same thing. He said that he thought maybe Donaldson just had a down year. Not the fact that Donaldson may be over the hill, and maybe that wasn't the decision that should have been made last off season. But that's neither here nor there. Again, I'm sorry. It comes down to accountability.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think the answers that they gave are just not going to be satisfactory. It would be helpful if Aaron Boone would say, "Look, I hear what fans are saying. We know how they feel about Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, but here is the reason why we insert him in all these games. Here is the reason why we took him out of the playoffs." Actually, at the press conference, he did glean on why he did take Isaiah Kiner-Falefa out. May not be an answer that will be satisfactory to Yankee players, but you're right about that. You can't tell us he's great, and when we see what's happening on the field, it's not great. It comes down to, don't forgive me. Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining.
Exactly. And currently, well, it's not current anymore. He called up Peraza, who, was touted as the second coming. And how many times did we see him?
Now, the thing with Peraza is it raises those suspicions that there is a contract factor, a money factor, as to why they're not playing him. And the Yankees don't give a satisfactory answer. At this point, I think Yankee fans are so intelligent. I don't know why they just can't come out and say, look, we have a contractual issue for not putting him in there. Fans won't like that answer, but at least they will understand. At least it'll show some transparency and some clarity happening.
Yeah. I think tipping their hand in some way.
I hope I'm not changing the subject. I know you have a plan for today's show, but
no.
What we're sort of getting to is this offseason. Now we all hear that. We hear the clock ticking with Aaron Judge, and to me, this is a pivotal moment in the Yankees' history. This is really going to tell fans if this team is serious about wanting to stay competitive, and not just be competitive, but how they look, how they stand with other teams in the baseball world, how they stand with other sports in the sports world, what they do with Aaron Judge. They really should be able to sign him. They should really be able to outperform the San Francisco Giants. And I'm not necessarily on board with all the belief that because he's from San Francisco, he wants to go to San Francisco. There are arguments against that. Sweeney Murdy even talked about that. But this is a pivotal moment in the Hal Steinbrenner, Brian Cashman, New York Yankees. And what happens with Judge is really going to dictate a lot of what happens in the future. I'm not too confident that they're going to be able to get him. And the reason for that is because maybe they're playing it close to the chest. But I don't really get the sense that they really, really want to bring him back. You can pick up, certain cues from Brian Cashman in his press conference. Well, we would really like to have Judge back. That's different from saying we really want Judge back. Why can't they say we want Judge back? Okay, because it gives away leverage. If Judge's agent hears that, they're going to say, okay, you want him back? $50 million a year, something like that. So I get that. But the body language and what they say tells me, they're playing it where they're going to try to get the least or the lowest offer they can possibly get away with to offer him. An offer that might be good enough, an offer where they can say to the fans, look, this is how much we offered him. This is the number of years. Unfortunately, we weren't able to beat the Giants or the Dodgers or the Angels or, heaven forbid, the Seattle Mariners. Could you imagine that?
No.
So I don't really feel like they have the fire to want to get that. And the only excuse I can make for that is they are playing it close to the chest also.
I hope that's right. I really, hope that credit, could be given to them. And I'm reading that the Giants have their pocketbooks wide open and are willing to counter and likely go into that final stretch against Yankee front office.
Yeah.
So that is a concern. And it would seem to me, you think of how much money the Yankee organization is making off of Derek Jeter still, off of Mariano still. Derek Jeter was a generational player. Still a huge draw. Still, I'm sure, a lot of money in terms of memorabilia and swag, etc. They have that and more right now with Aaron Judge. That's dollars they're giving away, and I hope they're thinking about that. And if they're not, they should hire me. But
you bring up a very good point also, Lynn, because we all see on Twitter that there are some fans that say, we shouldn't bring back Judge. We get rid of Judge, we can bring back 4 players, that have equivalent talents that, the sum of their parts will add up to Aaron Judge. In my opinion, I think those fans are not seeing the forest through the trees. It's not just about the players on the field. We like the team beyond what happens on the field. Everything that you said about Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera. We even saw this with, when he was alive, Mickey Mantle and Ron Guidry. These players, they still sell the team. They're still in the fabric of the Yankees, and the Yankee fans like that. I mean, we're the only team, up until the Mets did it last year, that still has a very, very good Old Timers Day celebration every year. We're the only team that does that. So we know how to do it. So I just can't get on board with those fans that say, oh, let's just get rid of him. It's just about baseball. It's more than just baseball.
I think no Judge failure of the offseason. I don't care what else they do. It's no Judge, no championship. It's going to say to me that their idea of team building is a completely different animal than what Yankee fans expect. If you're not going to retain the star of your team, the face of Major League Baseball, if there's no room in Yankee land for that, you got a problem in the Bronx.
I agree.
Yeah. And now one of the faces on the Mount Rushmore of the Yankee organization. He's there with Maris and Ruth. And this Yankee history, this storied franchise.
Right.
What are they saying? I agree.
And
what you're saying, Chris, I agree with 100%. We're the Yankees. Okay, we have a certain standing in the fabric of the history of baseball. If you want to trade off your stars, that's something that the Boston Red Sox do. They get rid of Mookie Betts. They get rid of all of their star players. We don't do that. We try to keep the star players because we see the value in them. If Judge got a 10-year contract, I don't care if when he's 40, he's not as productive as when he's 30. I don't care about that. I, as a fan, want this guy to be a Yankee. He was born to be a Yankee. He represents what a Yankee is. He's big. He's strong. Good-looking guy. Let's admit it. He's got the square jaw, handsome guy, speaks very well, and he hits home runs. Home runs are very much in the fabric of what a Yankee is. So he has to be a Yankee.
Sorry, great with kids.
Yeah.
He is. every video you see makes me want to cry of him with the kids.
However, I think that the flip side of what you're describing there is what Yankee fans have been receiving from the front office. That is has-beens, players who are over the hill, who had great careers like Donaldson, IKF who had a Gold Glove, but we're not going to play him at third base.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think is the basic philosophy of Yankee team building? What are they looking for?
I think their philosophy is just what was reported in Bob Papich's book in the Empire. His what was the title again? It suddenly jogs my memory.
Evil Empire or something.
The Empire. I read so many books. But I think what their philosophy is that it doesn't take a high payroll to win the World Series. They will cite the Tampa Bay Rays.
Right.
They will cite the Atlanta Braves from last year. You could even cite the Philadelphia Phillies from this year. That's the way the Yankees and Hal Steinbrenner look at it. It doesn't always cost money, so you have to find different avenues. Right. But I don't think that the avenues that they've chosen are really working out too effectively. It's a deep problem.
Before the show, Lynn, you and I were talking about something Lindsay Adler said. And as maybe many of you know, she's going to be moving to the Washington Post. Not the Washington
Wall
Post.
Street Journal.
The Wall Street Journal. I'm sorry. Sorry, Lindsay. Anyway, to become a national baseball reporter. But one of the things that she said on her way out, and I know, Lynn, you've got the quote there.
Yep. So here's what she said. And this is within the context of what we were just talking about. Sometimes it just makes sense to sign one of the best players of his generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. You can't overthink it on Aaron Judge. And to what you were getting at, Chris, you're right. The Yankees have brought in, the Randy Johnsons of their time. They've brought in Jose Canseco. They've brought in aging, ball players before.
Yeah.
Pre-1998, that was a lot of George Steinbrenner. He would actually bring in these players, thinking that it would help the team, and it really wasn't helping. But we're talking about a kid who was homegrown. He came from the farm system. We've all seen the video clip on the MLB network of the Yankees announcing Aaron Judge's name in the draft when he was selected. And I think that's something that you can appreciate and see the value of.
Yeah.
Spencer, you brought up Canseco's name, so I'm just going to have to go there. Like the piece of bleep. Never wanted him to ever wear our uniform. And he had the nerve, the unmitigated gall, to really go hard against the fans for booing Judge, making the noise during the postseason. And so he said, Aaron Judge, you're the god of baseball, and the New York fans would have easily crucified you at times. Get out of there ASAP.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, we all feel the same about Jose Canseco. I really wouldn't put too much stock into what he said.
No.
Talk about Jose Canseco, I will say this. His books were very good, very amusing. He's like it is kind of guy. Yeah. And also on Jose Canseco, I understand the disdain of him, and it's certainly merited. But I almost caught a foul ball by Jose Canseco. It was in September. It was in spring of 2001. It was the last game I went to with my father to Yankee Stadium, and the ball hit right off my fingertips, bounced off my fingertips. The kid behind me got the ball.
Probably didn't
that's
even
my
hurt
memory of Jose Canseco. But he is a character. He's a character, that's for sure. Yeah, I didn't like those. I didn't like those comments either. I thought, boy, I at least hope Aaron Judge doesn't, put stock into it. I guess about you never know.
No, and just everything we know about Judge, and I haven't had lunch with him recently. I think that he really gets the game. He gets the fans.
Yeah.
And he puts no one's harder on Aaron Judge than Aaron Judge is.
Right.
No one could convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure he entirely gets it. And the press was also going hard at us, not just Clown Seiko, right? Really going hard about our reaction in the stadium and what a disgrace it was. But here's what Coney said. He said that you have to expect the boos. The fans know what they're doing, and they care, they're passionate, and any player has to expect the boos and listen to the boos, essentially.
Yeah. Right.
It comes with the territory. Do you want the empty stadium, or do you want it full with your passionate noisemakers? One way or the other. You can't have one or the other.
I did see someone else on Twitter say that there was only about 90 fans actually booing, that it wasn't like the whole, a roar of boos. I don't know.
I know.
I was in the stadium for that game, actually, so I was there.
What did you
heard
think?
the boos, but the boos came on the heels of his fourth strikeout. They came on the heels of a playoff game, of an ALDS playoff game.
Right.
He had struck out. This was very uncharacteristic of Aaron Judge. It's nothing new. The fans have booed Mariano before, but not because they want to boo Mariano. It was at a time when Mariano was not saving games. They booed Derek Jeter before, not because they're too hard on Derek, but he was, making outs. He was coming up to bat with hitters in scoring position, and innings were ending without the Yankees getting runs, and the Yankees were losing games, with your star player, not knocking the runs in. Yeah, Aaron Judge, he gets that. He knows that the fans have him. Right. I mean, the players that worry about the Yankee fans, that's the Joey Gallos of
absolutely
universe. That's the IKFs of the universe. They're the ones that are going and saying, the fans don't like me. And listen, with Joey Gallo, I mean, the guy hit 170. Look at your batting average. Of course you're going to get crucified, Now, I don't think fans should take it to the point where they're personally attacking a guy like that.
Right.
It's even true that some of the fans felt sorry for him. We were really pulling for him, to succeed. But, it's for guys like him that, they're the ones that are perpetuating these stories that the Yankee fans are hard. And let's get real. It's not just the Yankees. Every team's fan base, will boo if your team is not succeeding.
Absolutely. And we don't need, Bob Clappish and maybe Andy Martino telling us whether or not we should be booing our players during the ALDS or not. It's like, I felt like the press was creating a situation.
Oh, yeah, they're very good at that.
Yeah, the New York press, again, strikes again, in other words.
Yeah, I think it's just energy wasted. I can't even believe
energy wasted. Absolutely.
It sells papers. It sells clicks on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, we've had a fantastic conversation, but we've got something we want to leave you with. Spencer, I know you've got the trivia question this week, which is amazing because you usually are the person that answers our trivia question. So I hope we get enough viewers to get an answer this week.
Do I get the prize?
You automatically get the prize.
So during the World Series, the Astros in Game 4 pitched a combined no-hitter. And I was actually hoping we could talk about this because now the Yankees have to share the distinction with the Astros of being the only two teams to have pitchers pitch a no-hitter in the World Series. But
hey, I'm happy to extend the conversation. We can certainly talk about that.
We can talk about that? Can we do
that?
that?
We'll talk about that.
And Spencer, before you go on, were they both combined no-nos? Or
no.
So Yankees did it with one pitcher. But
absolutely. But here it is. It's like this. It's like another poke at the Yankees. First, the Astros sweep us, and they eliminate us from the playoffs for the 5th time. Then they go into the World Series, and they pitch a no-hitter. Now, a no-hitter is a far different thing from a perfect game. But we know how the baseball historians are. They're always going to phrase it as no-hitters in a World Series. They're not going to say a perfect game and a no-hitter. So now we have to share that distinction with the Astros. of being the only teams to throw no hitters. And it really bothers me, especially because A, it was the Astros. B, it was one of these combined no hitters. Okay, it's still impressive not to give up any hits and have a fleet of pitchers throw it as opposed to one guy. But there really is something more impressive when one pitcher is on the mound and battling a lineup and going through that lineup 3 times and finishing the game without giving up a single hit. That's impressive. I feel like we've diluted the prestige of pitching a no-hitter by putting a lot of credence into these combined no-hitters. So that's my I don't like that we have to share the history and now we're stuck with it. What do you guys?
So dare I say that the Astros no-hitter should have an asterisk?
Brilliant. Yes, in fact. You know, I had a little disagreement with Emily Nyman on this point. Yeah, she had said something about she was criticizing someone else's comment that it was that not thinking a combined no-hitter was a no-hitter was not a modern way of looking at it. And I thought and I said, that's, ridiculous. The combined no-hitter has nothing to do with being modern. And just because it is a unique and it's its own special class of something good, but it's not as prestigious as a no-hitter thrown by a single individual, in my opinion. I agree with you 100%. But there were a lot of different opinions out there on the topic.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because it raises so many issues about it, you have to ask, what is the value of the no-hitter? I mean, I'd be more impressed by a pitcher that threw out or that struck out 15 players in a game and only gave up 2 hits than one of these combined no-hitters. They probably walked a couple guys in the game also. It's just, it's not the same. To me, a no-hitter is when one pitcher is out there throwing to the lineup, getting into the 9th inning, and finishing the job. You finish it on your own.
Exactly.
I don't care how modern it is. I don't think Emily Nyman really has too much like for me also. She made a remark about Old Timers Day this year, and I called her out for it. And we had an exchange, so I don't think she's going to be I don't think she's going to be watching this show, so I don't think she'll hear this my remarks.
No, I doubt she's one of our fans, but anyway.
Best of luck, Emily. We hope you succeed, but you just don't share the same views on a lot.
And it's part of the passion we share. We're going to disagree.
Right.
We're going to dig our heels in. We're stubborn.
Absolutely. Actually, the whole fun of doing this is disagreeing with someone half the time.
Yeah.
You got the guy on the show today.
And then you check your follows to see who checked out after.
All right. Well, let me.
I'm in the 5% minority. 95% of the Yankee fans have one view on things. I'm in that 5% that's always got like a differing view, a counter view.
Right. Well, that's because you think. You're a thinking man's fan.
Yeah,
you tell my wife that.
You're a voice of reason.
There you go. All right, Spencer, cue up this trivia question for us that I interrupted you.
That's okay. It was a good interruption. So, in the spirit of no-hitters in the World Series, in 1956, Don Larson pitched his famous perfect game against the Dodgers. What game did he pitch his perfect game?
Okay.
What game of the World Series?
What game of the World Series did Don Larson pitch his perfect game?
I think it's 56 against the Dodgers.
Okay, that's an excellent question. And we hope you go out. Don't Google it if you don't have to. We hope that you comment, like, subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. We look forward to seeing you every week and seeing your comments when we get them. Thank you, Spencer, for joining us. It was such a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much. I love being on here. I really appreciate it. And anytime you give me an invitation, I'll be happy to accept. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And come back soon.
You got it.
All right. Thanks, Lynn.
And
go Yankees.
And as always, remember, every Sunday you have a reserved seat on the upper deck. Go Yankees.